Welcome to Heather Sells NYC with your host, Heather M. Cooper. Each episode is focused on helping people navigate through the intricacies of buying and selling real estate in New York City to get the greatest value. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on our website, heathersellsnyc.com. Now here's the host of Heather Sells NYC, Heather M. Cooper.
Hello, Maria. Thank you so much for being on my podcast and for being here today.
Oh, my absolute pleasure.
So just a little bit of background about Marija Parente. Maria is a very good friend of mine, an artist and a total access coach. Well, and some of you may ask, what is a total access coach? Can she do everything for me? I guess we should flip it to Maria and see what that is and what that entails.
Well, great question. Total access is a word created by me. So there's no total access certification out there, not yet until I create it. But what I mean by total access really is accessing you. I have it that we are our biggest resource, tapping into beyond the obstacles, beyond the past, beyond the things that we carry as burdens, like bad experiences, failures from the past, and all that isn't who we really are. So total access coaching is about unlocking the part of you that is a resource, that is true since you were born, that is never changing, and the source of our limitless potential, really.
That's great. So, in other words, so you help people get out of their own way. So, if people have career blocks, relationship blocks, you give them the access with the work, with the coaching that you do.
Yeah, I mean, coaching is a big word, and there are all kinds of coaching out there for producing specific results. The results that I produce with people is really getting them in touch with their true essence. Why is that important? Is because we're not all created equal in a sense that, like, we don't all want the same thing. We're not all finding pleasure in the same thing. And I think it's really important to take some time and inquire into, like, what makes you tick. What was your specific background, if that makes sense? Like, what were you born with? What are your gifts? Frankly, what is it that are your weaknesses? And uncovering that cocktail. It's not template. It's not formulaic. It's very authentic and real and true to you. And I think, in a world where everybody's wanting to scale businesses and make things like simpler, and in a world of AI as well, I think it's like so important to get in touch with that really essential part of you, that true nature. From there, what kind of business you want to create, what kind of relationship would empower you. And you're not so taken aback by failures, because you don't even see failures as such. It's a failure to producing a simple result, but not fail. You are not a failure. So it's about really just kind of unlocking that and unleashing yourself and your potential fully. And you'll have it, but it's buried under so much of shoulds and shouldn'ts and what the world needs, what you're told. People give unsolicited advice. You and I know that really well, whether we ask for it or not. And so it's piercing through all of that and relying on something that is true to you, finding that unique voice. So my job, even as a coach, is to really just get out of the way and listen. I do a lot more listening than talking.
Yeah, I would think that listening is very important with what you do. I mean, I know in real estate, a lot of times I want to interrupt and I want to talk and ask questions, and sometimes I have to bite my tongue, and I'm sure with you as well.
Yeah,
with
it's not even biting my tongue. It's about really listening to how the world occurs to the other person. Because if we get how they perceive the world, what they do, the actions they take make sense for them. So it's about not rushing and coming up to so conclusions and jumping in to what people may need, or what you think people need, or what you think, even as a real estate broker, right? Like what you think people should find wonderful. Not everybody would want to live in a place that I live. I love it. It works for me, but somebody would rather have a country home or something like that. So again, we're not all wanting the same thing, and listening is key to seeing who people really are, but then also seeing where the obstacles are to them creating who they really are.
Yeah, it's true. Like I get that because it even in real with my clients. I mean, some clients want an apartment in Midtown East with high maintenance, and other clients want Upper East with a very low maintenance. So what is important to one client is quite different, and it depends upon where clients are in their
Yeah.
lives, right?
Yeah, it depends on, yeah. I mean, I know from having been somebody who was looking for a home, it depends on what you need, what empowers you. Like I have it that it's really important to have your environment promote the best you that you can be. So, as you know, from being my friend, when I lived in Washington Heights, that was too far from everything that mattered to me in a city. It wasn't
Mhm.
bad, it wasn't wrong, it just wasn't a match for me. So it is about listening to what is home for people, and home can be expressed differently for different people. It's very similar to my coaching, actually, because people want freedom, but what is freedom to me and to you is maybe not the same.
Right. That is true. That is quite interesting. Like selling somebody's home might give them freedom, freedom to buy something bigger, maybe in the country or New Jersey or Long Island, and buying may make them may make them feel like they're building this wealth, right?
Yeah, I mean, you don't know what game people are in. If they're in a game of finding investment property, you are looking for a different place for them. If they're looking for home, it's something else. If they're looking for a stepping stone or place to work and live, it's different. So I don't get how anyone can rent a home or sell a home to anyone without really listening and listening keenly to what people say they want, and even beyond. Because I this is probably the case in real estate as well, because it's the case in coaching. Sometimes people think they want to be in a relationship, for example, but that might not be the case. It might be that they just want to have experience of love and intimacy, and you don't have to be in a relationship to experience love and intimacy. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's really important to listen, bottom line.
No, it's so true. It's so true.
Yeah.
Because all of our clients are in different places in their lives, and sometimes we just have to zip it and listen.
Yeah.
And you have a program which I've done and taken called Clean Slate, right? I said
Yeah.
it.
Well, yeah, Clean Slate. Well, currently it's not actually designed as a program. I have an ebook called Clean Slate to Create, where it's a practical guide to clearing your uh, way to flow. Really, it's a
But can
simple
you
spiritual
explain
practice.
to the audience what Clean Slate is and why you created it, and how it can help, perhaps a homeowner or a
Hmm.
renter, and yeah, just really clearing out their space. This could certainly help.
Yeah. So I think, well, clear slate to create is, I think, an important practice in life. I think whenever we are creating something, we first need to create some space for it. Like, for example, if I was going to make lunch right now, I would have to move my computer and the lights and the phone and all of that, and clear the table and then set it for lunch. So I have noticed early in my coaching career that people would hire me for big intentions and big results. And then sometimes they will be stuck on something that is relatively simple. Like their environment is not promoting who they're wanting to be in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So if you imagine just something as simple as if you're going to work in the office, but it's hard for you to find in your closet like the suits and the things that you would wear in the office, well, that just now increases your getting ready time. So that's a surface level of clean slate, just looking at things that are in a way of us moving in a direction of our dreams and moving like dancing through life. Like if you have an obstacle, like, oh my God, like, oh, that shirt is not clean and I have to do laundry now. But the laundry in New York, sometimes it's not in your apartment. And now you need 2 days to get it back. And so it gets like really complicated. So whether it's your physical environment or your virtual space, which is now getting so cluttered with the iCloud and all the stuff we have at our disposal, there's also relationships. Like sometimes you can call that person up because last time you spoke, you had an argument. So I started noticing that when we don't put intention on clearing our life, we clutter it so much and then it becomes impossible to create. Whenever you want to create something, you begin to see the obstacles to it. So clean slate is about just taking a moment and not like one time, and it's done, but really returning to it time and time again. Like every time you're frustrated and not at peace, it's like a meditation practice. You look at something, you clear a drawer, you clear your purse that you take with you every day, and something moves. So pertaining to real estate, I think it's so important to create your home to be an environment where you can rest or work or raise kids. I mean, whatever your intention is for the home. So taking some time to design the internal, the home internally, I guess it's like so important. Because sometimes we can't get the home that we want. Like I wanted to live in Tribeca and that, I couldn't afford that as of yet. But by clearing my life and simplifying, I actually did get a home in Brooklyn that is exactly what I wanted. And I wouldn't have known that if I didn't take the steps to clearing and listening for what wanted to happen beyond like what my mental chatter was telling me. So does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does. And I mean, you really got the home that you desired. Like you stood for that desire and you stood for that home. And I wonder how, standing for that desire can help maybe some of the listeners who maybe perhaps want to buy a home with me and they don't know how, or they're stuck with the interest rates. That could be a story. It's not a story, it's a reality. But just really getting them from point A to point B. And I guess it sounds like it's living in their desires or their intentions, as you say.
Yeah. So I think for your listeners, what will be very useful if they will take me up on the offer is to look at first what they truly want. Like, what is the desire? What's the experience you would want to have it at home? Before you ever go, like, I want this apartment and this is my budget and this is how many bedrooms, just look at what's the experience. Are you looking for a place where you can work freely, where you can set up a podcast office? Are you looking for a place where you can raise your children? Are you looking for a place where you can bring lovers? Sky's the limit, right? It's up to you. But what's the bigger context, if you will? What's the desire? Home, sanctuary, place that nourishes you. So context, that's number one. And then you want to look at the reality of your finances, reality of your income, reality of prices in New York, reality of, what else are they dealing with, right? Like they need to know mortgage rates, right? So those are the things that some of those things you can answer. So I would encourage everybody that is looking to buy something to actually get in touch with you with hello email and telling you, okay, this is the context. I'm looking for home. And these are the variables. This is roughly my budget. This is the range of price. This is income or whatnot. And then maybe get some feedback from you. I think it's such an organic process. It's not like once and done. It's not like we can create a list and then get everything on that list. I never in a million years knew that I would love Brooklyn so much. I first lived in Astoria, then I moved out of the city for a bit. Then when I moved back, I lived in Washington Heights, and I wanted to live in Manhattan. I was almost like so snobbish about it. Like I wanted to live in Manhattan. Little did I know that Brooklyn completely knocks everything off of my list. So you really have to stay open, stay true to your dream and your desire, and then look at the reality. You can't pretend that the reality is not what it is, that the rates are not what they are, that you don't have the income that you do. But when you engage with somebody in this conversation, then you can look at, okay, I need to increase the income, or I need to expand the radius where I'm looking. Like when we applied for this home, it was 2 years ago. And at the time when we applied, we couldn't have afforded it. So I really want people to know that when you stand for your desire, but are willing that the variables can change, because there are so many things you can change, increase income, change your mind about the neighborhood and stuff like that, be more flexible with those things. But you have to be engaging with somebody who actually knows. So I think reaching out to you will be the first step, because then they can engage with that reality. And from there, they can keep on dreaming and maybe hire a coach, I guess, and be standing for desires, because it really takes something. It's not without any effort. But what else are you going to be doing with your life if not having your dreams fulfilled?
Right, exactly. I mean, come to me to start, and then come to you to help them get there, fulfill on their dreams. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, as a New Yorker myself, I'll tell you, I think so many of us even considered moving out of the city. You look at the real estate prices and you can sometimes think that, oh, wow, it's too much, or like we're paying high rent. But as a New Yorker of almost 30 years, here's what I will say. I get that the rent is high, but you also live in a diversity capital. You have so much culture here. There are things that you're like fingertips. Free museums. I mean, there are days for most of the museums when it's free. If you're a New Yorker, you have a cultural pass through the library. You have so many perks that you can actually use. But it really takes being in communication. It takes like not sitting with yourself and dwelling and having an internal dialogue. It takes talking to somebody, a friend, and then a coach and a real estate person, and getting your answers, like being in communication with people. It's not going to happen if you're just sitting and meditating and hoping that things change.
Right, exactly.
Unfortunately.
Right. It's like if we all want something, we have to plan. And that's how I work with my clients. I educate them on the process with purchasing a co-op, and I really find out what are their needs, what are their wants, what are their desires, and how can I take them there.
So important. Yeah.
So
important. Really, I mean, yeah. I see on your social media, and I actually love, I mean, even though you're a friend, I love your Instagram account and all the little videos that you create. They're really useful. They're really useful, and to shine the light on what's happening, what the trends are. And you can always find an exception to the rule, but I think it's great to educate people on what the options really are. Because I know I didn't have all the options when I first started looking. It was many conversations and much research.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think it's quite overwhelming when you come to New York and you know that you want to live here, but then you don't know how to get what you actually want. So, we really just have to educate those buyers and those sellers. Sometimes also sellers want a little bit more than what their apartment is worth. So, it's just actually showing them the prices and the comparables and showing them the marketing of what I'm actually going to do.
Yeah. I mean, I understand that we all have wants, right? And then I think it's important. This is a long conversation, probably not even for podcasts, but it's really worth looking at what the wants are and what is actually a need. I think those of us who are women, sometimes like we think that wants are something that we want, but it's actually a need, like literally to keep on going. We require that. So that's, I mean, it's a more complex conversation, but what is the want and what is the need? And for sellers, I guess, and if they're listening to this podcast, it's the same thing. I mean, if the price that you want to have is more important than selling in that moment, then maybe circle back and wait until the prices go up. Because New York City, like, I mean, you know this better than me, but the prices, they kind of go up, but they also go down sometimes. I know during the pandemic, there was like a period of time when it was really, really good to buy. And some of the old New Yorkers that I know, they always have like cash ready for those moments because they say they come in, I don't know how many years, but every once in a while, there's a really good time to buy in New York. And if that's somebody's game, I guess play a long game. And it can't just happen like this. It takes time to have any dream accomplished.
No, definitely, definitely. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that, follow the market, and 2020 was definitely a good time to buy, and even more so because the rates were quite low. And
Yeah.
so tell me a little bit, like, so Clean Slate. We certainly touched on Clean Slate a little bit, but how could, like, somebody living in their apartment use Clean Slate? What if they weren't ready to move? Is there a way that you can use the Clean Slate to just clean out their overabundance of stuff?
Yeah. So if I'm to simplify clean slate, it's really looking at, are we is who we are a kind of collection of our past? If you look at, sometimes, I know there was a short time that I helped my mom in real estate, and I was showing people apartments, and I was blown away that somebody said she loved the apartment, but she didn't want to take it because her bed was too big for it and the furniture couldn't fit. And I found that so odd that somebody was so attached to the furniture that
Mm-hmm.
she was going to not take the apartment because her furniture was too big. I just didn't understand it. So I realize in working with people, and even for myself, sometimes we get so attached to things that don't promote our well-being, that don't give us peace, that don't promote what we are desiring to have. They're a collection of past items. And some, I'm not saying that you should not keep some memorabilia or that you shouldn't remember anything that happened in the past. Far from it. But if you're just kind of collecting and then getting more and more storage space for the things that you collected, you're not really moving through life. You're not light on your feet. You're not able to be flexible with changes. And life is full of changes, unknown changes at that. So
Mm-hmm.
Clean Slate is really about arming yourself to become a creator. My whole work is about that, not just Clean Slate, but all the coaching that I do. It's about really understanding that you're the one who creates. So if you're the one who creates, first of all, who do you want to be? There's certain things we can't change about ourselves. We're the age that we are, and there's certain things we can't change. Some actually are open to change right now in this time and age that we live in, but a lot of things are not. But what about those things that are changeable? Like, I was not a patient person, but I trained myself to be patient. I'm actually most patient probably with my clients because I know that I'm intentional and I'm paid to be with them, and then I don't let my impatience come in at all. So being conscious about who you want to be, and then what that, if that's what you desire to be. Let's say you want to just be rich, or let's say you want to be an author, or you want to be an artist, or you want to be a wife. Then thinking about, what does your environment need to look like to support this as your dream? And then you literally design it. You start noticing that for example, if you want to have a partner and you live in a little studio and your bed has access only from one side, well, that's not really great for partnership. Maybe you need to have access from both sides. It's a simple example, but we're talking theoretically. So that's what really Clean Slate is about. And I think for somebody who's not ready to move, looking at what you already have, little by little, one corner at a time, or one project at a time. Maybe look at the kitchen, or look at the bathroom, or the cabinets, or the desks, or the closet, or the shoe closet, and just look at, like, do these things promote who you want to be in a world? Is this making your life easier, or is it actually getting in a way? So that's really what it is. And I think it's important, and especially if you're creating a dream home, but you're not there yet, I think it's important to harness the experience of dream home exactly where you are without any change. I think the way we change anything is by accepting reality and accepting what is first, not reacting to it, making peace with where we are, because then we're not using our energy trying to fight reality. And then we have all those resources to create. And then little by little, small little things impact our life tremendously. I started decluttering right before I moved. I started working with kids' toys, and I decluttered so much. I got rid of so many things I didn't need or want, and gave away to Salvation Army, etc. So when I got a call that I can move into this place, it was so easy for us to make the decision so quickly. And that's because we didn't have so many things to go through. So
no, this is so great, because you've helped me tremendously declutter my life, my apartment, and this is good for my listeners, because a lot of times they get overwhelmed when it's time to sell, when they're buying what to take, what not to take. So, this is good advice to really just take it bite size, one part of the apartment at a time.
Yeah, I mean, your overwhelm is not even in reality. In reality, there's like you have too many shoes, or reality is that you haven't looked through your papers and there's like too many stacks. So I think it's, for me, actually, I use it as a meditative practice, and I find that to be most effective for me personally. So, for example, if I'm on a train and if I'm getting impatient because it's like 45 minutes to get someplace, I will look through my phone and I will start clearing the videos I no longer need. I'm a creator and I like creative process. So sometimes like I make things out of videos. And honestly, sometimes even reflecting on my pictures and my videos, I see the kids, and then I have more compassion for them because they were like listening a lot better when they were younger, it seems like. So I think it works both ways. It's not just cleaning, right? It's actually looking at the life you lived and looking at which part of that you're ready to part, how you can integrate your experience but not carry clutter along the way.
Right. No, this is so great. I so appreciate all of your insight, all of this information. And for my listeners, how could they get in touch with you? I know that you are all over, and it will certainly be on the podcast and on YouTube, but just let us know.
So I have a website with my name, marijaparente.com. Maria is spelled with a J because I'm from Montenegro. So marijaparente.com is my website. All the stuff is there. You can buy not only Clean Slate to Create book, but also Creating Your Life as a Masterpiece. I'm also on all the socials. I'm a lot on Instagram. And I also love YouTube a lot. So I have a lot of helpful videos, especially regarding Clean Slate.
And
so
what's
that's a good way to get in touch with me. Marija Parente. It's all actually Limitless Creating. You can find it both ways, Marija Parente or Limitless Creating, which is the name of my business.
Okay. Fabulous. Well, thank you so much. It has been such an honor and such a pleasure to have you on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I hope it's helpful, and anyone can reach out to me and ask for more questions if there's something I said that they're intrigued by.
Absolutely. I'm sure that you have many people reaching out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
You've been tuning into Heather Sells NYC with your host, Heather M. Cooper. You can find more episodes on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on our website, heathersellsnyc.com. Thank you for your positive reviews, comments, questions, and for sharing this show with others.